We are starting the session on Innovation Propels Australia, India Trade and Investments. May I request Mr. A.K. Tareen, Co-Committee Member, CII Mystic South Global Linkages Summit, former Senior Trade Commissioner to India and South Asia, Government of South Australia, to kindly do the introduction remarks. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to today's session on Australia. It's my pleasure on behalf of CII to welcome you all to this session, chaired by the Australian Consul General, Her Excellency Silai Zaki. I must begin by thanking the Consul General for her presence today and for her support wholeheartedly in making this session possible. I remember meeting her a few months ago, seeking Australia's involvement as a partner country, and she readily agreed to that. And in fact, she went ahead and said, I will plan the whole program. Thank you so much, Silai. Congratulations also in order to the Consul General for her choosing the theme of innovation. Now, this is a masterstroke, considering there's still little awareness about Australia's capability in the innovation sector. When people talk generally about Australia, they still talk about commodities and agribusiness and services and stuff like that. And not many people know, I'm sure, even in this audience, that, for example, Google Maps was invented in Australia. Wi-Fi, which is an integral part of our life, is an Australian invention. Ultrasonic is an Australian invention. The flight recorder or the black box is an Australian invention. So how many of you knew this, right? So today's theme is basically to make you aware of Australia's cutting-edge capability in innovation, which actually stems from our very strong education sector and the research and development sector. Not to say that our other connections, which is at commodities or agribusiness, are any lesser. We're building on those trends in the sense for India's 1.4 billion people to be fed well, Australia is very well positioned to produce food and agribusiness products. For India's nearly $4 trillion economy to be growing at 6% plus higher, you need energy, minerals, and resources. Australia continues to provide that. And for India's large population of students who want to go overseas and study, Australia continues to be a favorite destination. So this is not to undermine the other sectors of the economy, which underpin the strong relationship, but to also add a new dimension, which is hitherto not so well known in India. And today we are really glad that we have our Australian innovation companies who have actually presence in India already, sharing their experiences and their technologies and their presence in India. I think when I started as a trade commissioner long time ago, we had started talking about these things. I'm so happy today to be promoting my country of adoption to my country of birth. And nothing can be more privilege and of pride to me. So I don't want to take more time. Like I said, my whole objective was to set the tone and introduce our team. I would now like to invite our Honorary Consul General, our Consul General, Her Excellency Silai Zaki, to come and take over the proceedings and chair the session. Thank you, Silai.
Good afternoon, Vanakkam and Namaste. Thank you, Tareen, for that warm introduction. You've already highlighted the Australian innovation, so I won't go into that, but I'd like to acknowledge the distinguished guests who've arrived today. It's a great pleasure to be a country partner at the CII Mystic South Global Linkages Summit. I congratulate CII and TT Ashok's team for organising this initiative. I would like to begin our country session today by setting the scene with developments in the Australia-India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. The world we live in now is our most complex strategic circumstances in 2 generations. There is sharpening strategic competition, climate change is intensifying, The multilateral order is under pressure, and there are active conflicts across the globe. Countries' sovereignty is under threat from issues such as coercion and opaque lending practices. In all of this, India has greater salience than at any other time in our history. Australia knows this, and this is why we've seen a mammoth pull by both our countries to upgrade our relationship. We are comprehensive strategic partners, and this year we'll be celebrating the 5th anniversary of that. Australia is only one of 2 countries in the world, the other being Japan, with which India has an annual leaders meeting, a 2+2 foreign and defence leaders meeting, and a trade agreement. We are members of the Quad, and we are both committed to a secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. Our relationship has shifted significantly to the kind of partnership we have with our closest friends. This is a truly remarkable achievement. There are 3 factors that have propelled this change. We sum them up in 3 words: necessity, opportunity, and affinity. What does this mean? If Australia and India want to preserve an open, stable, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, we need each other. India is an indispensable partner, critical for achieving the sort of strategic equilibrium that we need. There is enormous opportunity that our natural, commercial, entrepreneurial, and demographic strengths offer each other's economies. We refer to this as economic complementarity. The third driver that is bringing us closer together is our increasing affinity, the human bridge that spans deep reservoirs of goodwill between our people. Over the past 5 years, India's exports to the world have gone up by 35%. But over the same period, India's exports to Australia have increased 66%. Innovation has been a driving force propelling our trade and investment relationship. Today, we are lucky to have Australian business representatives here to share their story of innovation driving that relationship. It is my great pleasure to welcome Sriram Iyengar, the Regional Managing Director, India and Qatar for Callington India Private Limited, Jai Ranganathan, CEO and founder of 3 Vima Pty Limited, and Irfan Malik, the Australia-India Business Chamber National Associate Chair and President. We'll now have our session with them, and we will have a question-answer component to this session so that you get an opportunity to ask them your questions directly. Thank you. Begin with Sriram. His company that he's running the India operations for, India and Qatar, was the first Australian business that I visited in Chennai when I arrived a year ago. And I was blown away by the innovation that they do. Every time I see Sriram at an event, that day he told me that there was one product his company Callington has on every flight, on every plane that flies in India. And I saw him maybe a few months later and he said, oh, now there's 2 on every flight. But most recently, he said to me, oh, on some airlines, there's up to 17 Australian products, and you don't realise. So I'm going to start with Sriram and ask him to tell us more about Callington and how innovation has driven his business.
Thank you, Silai. Good evening, everyone. Silai has set the tone for the meeting today, as well as Tareen also in his opening remarks. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the panel here. To answer your question, we need to go back 8 years. 8 years back, this is when I set up Callington. I was the first employee who set up Callington in India. But historically, Callington is a 56-year-old specialty chemical company, and we are headquartered out of Sydney in Australia. Our main domain is aviation, and we work very, very closely with a lot of aviation companies, airlines in the world. Innovation is a subject which is there today as the highlight of the whole discussion, and I can very proudly say that somewhere in the 1980s and the 1990s, Carrington played a very important role in innovation of quite a few products which are used today on a daily basis on aircraft, especially products which are related to biosecurity and products which are related to the health and safety of humans as well as cargo which flies across the world. We are a very integral part of WHO. We've been working very closely with WHO on the subject of aircraft disinfection, it's called, that's the word, wherein we ensure that there are no pests which fly across on aircraft between countries. That's our core business. And over time, we also established a lot of other products which help keep the aviation industry running. 2016, the last year of 2016 was when Carrington India was incorporated in India. And since then, it's been quite a eventful journey. And 8 years later, when I reflect upon the whole thing, I think I can proudly say that today, if any of the airlines in India has a problem in flight or something, they generally do call me for the first choice of solution. And as she said, currently, as of today morning, 830 aircraft fly in the air. We have our products on board, all of them. You may not see them physically because these are products which are more related to keeping the aircraft clean, or the exterior or the interior. Or sometimes we talk about the fragrance. As you enter the aircraft, the fragrance which you get. Those are the products which we make. Innovation plays a very important role because all what we supply has to be certified by Boeing and Airbus. So whatever we do is certified by Boeing and Airbus. To take it forward, what we did was 2 years back, as a part of the whole process of innovation, Australia being in a slightly remote corner of the world. No offense, Silai.
We like to think of it as the center of the globe, but okay.
Okay. But from my perspective in terms of development and in terms of the innovation, we decided that we need to expand our horizon. And the team in Australia decided that no better place than India and no better place than Chennai. So we signed up with IIT Madras. And today we have set up our innovation center inside IIT Madras Research Park. And in fact, out of that center, we have now developed 5 new products, which are now being used by the airlines. We also have another vertical, which is the industrial vertical, where we work very closely with manufacturing companies. So yes, there is a lot of innovation in Australia. People do not know about it. But as an organization, I think Carrington is committed going forward that the center at IIT Madras would be the center point for all development going forward for the group.
So Sriram is very modest, but next time you fly on an Air India flight, if you get a towelette or a napkin, look at the back. You'll see that it says Carrington produced those towelettes. How many products do you have on Indigo flights?
Today, Indigo is 18 products. As I said, you will not see them, but in fact, today morning, I just came off a call today morning, and you all know Indigo's now introduced Stretch, their new business class offering, and they wanted us to help them on that offering. So we've just given them a product today morning, which will help them keep their business class and the seats, etc., in good condition. So yeah, 18 products with Indigo, 11 products with Air India. And I also handle Qatar. My biggest customer is Qatar Airways.
I was going to say that next.
Okay.
Tell us about the task Qatar Airways gave you with the fragrance.
Yeah, we work today. We work with Qatar Airways very, very closely, and they are a very demanding customer, extremely demanding, because they are the only 5-star airline in the world, and their compliances and their requirements from product development are extremely stringent. So 1.5 years back, they had floated a global tender for the economy class, the soap and the air freshener and the EDT, the odor toilet. So we were up against quite a large of the global majors, but somehow we managed to pull through. And today we are on contract with them for 3 years for supply of these products. Not only this, we also supply a lot of other products to Qatar Airways. But the process is so stringent, and there is absolutely no element, there is no iota of a deviation. If there is either 0 or it's 100. There is nothing called as 99.99 with them. So you have to be on top of the game. And it's helped the whole process. And lastly, most important is I strongly believe in the Make in India concept. So today, whatever we supply to any of the customers in India is made in India. It's made in our facility in Pondicherry. In fact, very interestingly, we are now migrating from Pondicherry to Tamil Nadu. In the next 2 months, we are inaugurating a 40,000 square feet state-of-the-art facility in the border between Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu. So I took a bit of time, but yeah, that's the story.
We're going to stay with you. I want to know why South India? What prompted you to base the Callington's Indian subsidiary in South India?
That's a very simple question. When I was hired in 2016, I was interviewed by the CEO of Callington and the owner of Callington. And they wanted me to set up either in Mumbai or in Delhi. So I went through a lot of processes of hiring and a lot of things. In the end, they finally told me that you have to decide. I said, you have only one choice. If you want me, it has to be Chennai. It's as simple as that. So I assumed they wanted me. So they gave me the flexibility of setting up in Chennai. So that also helps because I found a wonderful partner for my manufacturing, just 150 kilometers away. So that's how I set up Callington India and Chennai as the preferred choice. I didn't want to relocate at this point of my career. So I said, it's better to stay at home. So that's how Chennai was chosen. And yeah, it's been good since then.
And since then, there's been a lot of Australian visitors to Chennai.
Yeah.
So you've actually exposed them to a completely new part of India, a new ecosystem.
Absolutely.
What are their thoughts about basing the company in Chennai and Tamil Nadu, or Pondicherry actually, where the manufacturing hub is?
I strongly believe that the ecosystem which is there in Tamil Nadu, be it in terms of the knowledge or be it in terms of the infrastructure, I think it's second to none. And we are also quite, I would say in terms of connectivity, probably still not there, but I think that we will get there very soon. We are also very strong connecting Southeast Asia to Middle East to Europe. It's a pretty decent connections to all these places. So, and the infrastructure is really good, and the ecosystem is also pretty strong. So I think that's the reason why we decided to push ahead with Chennai and then manufacturing here.
Excellent. Thank you, Sriram. I'd like to move on to Jay. Jay's company, he'll tell you about it. As one of the first movers in the 3D construction space in Australia, how do you see innovation playing a role in your business? And you can start off by telling everyone what your company does.
Thank you, Counsel General. So we are into additive manufacturing, which is a 3D concrete printing company. So this innovation uses AI and robotics. We build structures on-site using industrial-sized 3D printers. So this is an Australian product, Australian manufactured machine. And what we have, my journey basically, how it started was about 4 years ago. Came by with the difficulty of constructing on a sloping block. So typically Australia has got different terrains, and one of the blocks that I had purchased was a sloping block. So with this kind of block, we had builders and contractors who I engaged to do the construction. And it was like complicated. They said, "Our sloping blocks are difficult. Material is going to be expensive. We've got to do different kind of structural design and so on and so forth." So I have construction experience in India before I migrated to Australia in '99. Interestingly, I used to work for India's first ready-mix concrete batching plant, which is L&T ECC. So I've been part of prestigious projects with L&T ECC, and I think that set my base for construction. But things worked differently for me, so I had to move on. I did a lot of stuff with IT, and my last 25, 30 years has been with IT, with my last tenure with IBM. So anyway, so my passion for entrepreneurship was always there, to do something different, creative, and what I can actually bring about. This journey, or this particular issue where I bought the property and then had the difficulty, triggered this whole cycle. Through my research, I had a lot of materials that I looked at, like Hebel, baser blocks, concrete blocks, and with the knowledge of how construction is done in India, I tried to balance that out, saying, okay, we could probably make bricks out of soil and mud, basically. And so working through all these things, I came across 3D concrete printing in the US. So there's a company out there which was actually doing these machines, and I started to engage them, asking what it is and how it is. The challenges were immense because one is, funding. In Australia, it's like we're still a little conservative that way, because if you buy something from overseas, you don't get funding as easily as you can for a local product. So leasing was a no-no, because these companies don't have a leasing agreement as well from intercountry. Then I sort of lost hope in between, but I kind of kept pursuing, and I came across this Australian manufacturer who was then willing to come on board and support me in the journey. So I still had to raise funds and everything, but it was much more simpler because I did that process internally. Now, through that journey with the Australian manufacturer, it so happened that my passion, my way of thinking, and the vision that I have for the technology, how to grow it, aligns with something that they want to do from a technology point of view, to sell in India and globally as well. In Australia and globally as well, right? I'm currently their ambassador for New South Wales and also the reseller for India. So this journey has been really very, very interesting for me, because just from starting to thinking about building, it's actually come now to actually taking the technology globally. And being an Australian product, it's more conducive for me to start promoting that. What I actually have come to a point to see in my last 4 weeks of the journey in India, so we visited Coimbatore, we did Chennai, we went back to Bangalore, and we're back in Chennai. Technology adoption is people wanting to embrace the new technology. They want to embrace new methods of construction. They want to see how technology can benefit them from cost, sustainability, labor, addressing the labor shortages, and also the cost of materials. Indian market is ready, and more than ready, to adopt this new technology, to be very honest.
I want to take it a step back.
Yeah.
Tell them about your 3D printable house.
Yes.
So, all over the world, housing is such a big issue, and the shortage of housing, the time it takes to get labourers and tradespeople to create housing.
Yep.
Your company's invented a printable house from concrete.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right. So what we do is the whole printer is assembled on site in about 2 to 3 hours time. So in less than 3 hours, you have a fully assembled printer on site. Then all that gets fed in is concrete. And this is unique concrete, which is, we call it a special sauce. We use that with normal Portland cement. We use the pump, The concrete's mixed on-site in the pump and poured in layers on as per the design of the house. Now, the design of the house is no different to any design that an architect would provide. An architect would provide you a CAD file, they provide you any multiple design format files. All these files get plugged into the robot, and the robot actually converts them into, they call it teach pendant, which is the official robotic language. We use that, and once that conversion happens, the pour starts. And all we need is like 3 people to manage the whole construction process. So the walls of a normal 3-bedroom house, which is, let's say, about 300 to 500 square meters, we can complete that in 72 hours. That is the beauty of 3D concrete printing. And they are concrete walls, they are fire resistant, they are flood proof, they are termite proof, so there are no termites at all whatsoever. And all we need is typically a surface where the printer can actually get mounted, and off you go. You know, I could walk in with my suit and then operate the printer. I need one labor, but having said that, this actually creates opportunity for new skills. So computational engineers are a completely new set of skills that actually get leveraged. Yeah, so that's the gist of it. Yeah, and then we have our electricians and plumbers come in and do all the services.
Yeah.
And in about 6 to 8 weeks time, you have your house ready to move in. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyone who's, yeah, please, it deserves a clap. I mean, you know, there's a housing shortage all over the world, and you know, I think this is the type of innovation we really need to break that cycle.
Yep.
You were going to talk about Coimbatore. Tell us about your trip to Coimbatore, and what kind of, I believe that was your first trip to Coimbatore. What kind of opportunities do you see for Australian businesses in T2 cities like Coimbatore?
Oh, unbelievable. Like we all know, Coimbatore is called the, I used to think always that it's the Manchester of India, which is how when I grew up in India, that's how we always looked at it. And Coimbatore was like, you know, the invention city basically in a lot of ways. So my recent visit actually opened up a lot of doors and opportunities, to be honest. More than that, I felt very enlightened to see the vibrance of the city, you know, the way people want to grow, people want to do things, and the inventions and innovations and things. I mean, like, it's amazing, you know. So if I would like to do something, I would like to do it in Coimbatore for sure. That's it's mainly my affiliation to the place is not what it is, but it's also the mindset in the tier 2 cities, right? So it's a kind of laid-back city, but at the same time, you got all the opportunity to leverage skills. You have machinery, you have access to good talent in a way, and most importantly, the mindset of people having openness about innovation is fantastic. So the number of people we spoke to, the number of people we engaged through this whole process in Coimbatore, I hardly found, not even one person actually said, oh, I don't understand this. Because they could grasp what it is, and they say, oh, this is something great. When can we see it? When can you do it? What are you going to do? And things like that. So I think that's a fantastic opening for me in Coimbatore, actually. And I think my roadmap to come to India wasn't there for at least the next 12 months, but now it's...
You can't avoid it.
No, I can't avoid it. I think it's going to be sooner. Yeah.
And I think for us, it highlights that, you know, even though we have these great linkages, we're only just scratching at the surface of the potential. There's a lot of potential to increase that trade and investment relationship between both countries. Absolutely,
absolutely. See, this opportunity, what we have for the technology is immense in the way that, you know, I always say imagination is your limit, but I'm limiting that to creativity that can be applied in your design on what you want to build. But what I actually see here as an eye-opener for myself is also that the depth of technology that can go into deployments. So as a very vague example, if you know you want to do something in Rajasthan, you know, in the desert, the amount of labor, the amount of material that you need to carry, and the time it's going to take, and the complexity of the location, I mean, it's going to be too much. But with this kind of technology, if you want to deploy something, you'll need a large truck with equipment and material, with another truck with some material, and about half a dozen people traveling with it. So I'm trying to sound it very simple, but that's exactly how it will work actually on the ground. So how we want to develop, from an India perspective, we've got villages which they need community centers, they need communal services, we need social housing. I mean, these are all things that can be addressed in less than no time, to be honest. But I think that's the adoption that needs to happen here. We really need to grasp that opportunity to take this technology forward here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring Irfan into this conversation. So Malayali by birth, but has lived in Australia for a really long time and been working in the trade and investment corridor for a couple of decades now. How do you promote Australian innovation to Indian companies and Indian businesses?
Thank you, Silai, and thank you for co-hosting and coordinating the session, which is important, and great to see CII host such an important session and really Mystic South to demystify South India opportunity for the global, the market, but also in particular for Australian market. I head the Australia-India Business Council, which is the leading industry body and a partner of CII, based out of Sydney, Australia. One of the things we bring as the leading industry body focused on bilateral trade investment and business linkages like the ones we have with Jay, is to really foster the other C, which I see is going to take and drive this bilateral trade outcomes, is the collaboration. Collaboration to accelerate economic and commercial outcomes, collaboration to fast track, accelerate innovation adoption and entrepreneurship as well. So that's something which I've lived and been breathing, last 6 to 8 years. I launched the Australia-India Innovation Bridge series about 6 years back, really connecting the ecosystems bilaterally. So we have got a phenomenal startup innovation entrepreneurial ecosystem in Australia, and very supportive government and education policies there. We've got one of the largest startup hubs in the world, definitely in the southern hemisphere, at the Sydney Startup Hub, where we've got more than 1,500 startups in just one building. Really, cutting edge innovation. But what we've had, our limitation is Australia doesn't have the market size to scale. And this is where India comes in as a scale-up partner, a partner where you can accelerate and scale your innovation, and then not only for Indian market, but also for the global market demand. Now, the other way I look at it, in fact, as at the Australia-India Business Council, whilst we're focusing on larger end of the town, some of the key sectors that we are discussing at this conference as well, across agri, pharma, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, defense space, all of these are very critical. Clean energy is another huge sector as well. But we are also really supporting the startup innovation ecosystem, where it's about scaling up validation, where you have a market validation stream or a pillar there. We've got product fit, so it has to be product fit validation that we support. And then third, the investor validation as well. You got to, ultimately, it needs to be a commercial venture where you could help this venture to scale, grow, but also it needs to be investable as well. So definitely these are things that we facilitate as a business council, working with various organizations like Jay and 3Vima, where we connect the ecosystems, facilitate the market adoption, alignment, and then help launch and then build connections to get some of the pilot projects. Now, that's something which we are working with several companies. And we've got phenomenal success stories. And this is all underpinned by the fact that there is a complementarity, as Silai mentioned. Australia has got what India needs, and India has got what Australia needs. And I'll give you some examples. There was a medtech company, and that's one of the huge sector. We are seeing a lot of growth bilaterally, and we've got great ecosystems here, whether it's Andhra MedTech Zone or even in Chennai with the IITM Research Park, or the other ecosystems here in South India, where companies got phenomenal product innovation, and they tend to obviously look at Middle East or other markets to scale. And we believe that having an entry into Australia, validating your product, even though market size is small, but use your launch into Australia and then scale globally, that changes the game in terms of becoming a normal scale, organic growth based company to a high growth venture. And we've had instances where these companies were looking at Middle East market, and we told them, please come to Australia, validate your product, get the TGA and those quality conformance done, and then scale into Middle East. It was about 10x growth over a period of 5 to 6 years. So that's the opportunity partnering with Australia brings for Indian companies, which is something which I would love to see. And also for the Australian startup and innovation companies, we see, as I indicated, India is a great scale-up market to commercialize. We've got some phenomenal research all across the educational institutions or the research organizations, even corporate organizations. They're sitting there, but it's not commercialized. And that's where we see India and the Indian innovation ecosystem as a scale-up commercial partner. Australia's got a lot of focus on future made in Australia, where there's a lot of investment going there. But we believe that future made in Australia has to partner with India to see the growth and the outcomes from a market and commercial perspective, which is something which I believe it's important. And at the Business Council, we are supporting those initiatives. We've got a lot of engagements across Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, all happening in the startup innovation entrepreneurship space. But we want to see more outcomes. My personal focus, again, for the next 2 years is definitely, whilst we work on the early stage companies to scale, but also look at unicorns, the companies which are in the 300 to 500 million cap market, to really help them to grow and become those unicorns. And we want to help them scale, launch, get businesses and foot on the ground, and get the legs and wings on the ground. And that's something which we want to foster, and phenomenal opportunities. Just as it was touched on, regional towns or tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, again, has got great opportunity to service regional Australia as well. So there's some regions just north of Sydney, Newcastle, Hunter. I mean, there are such a large ecosystem. I wish I could spend more time just matching companies from that ecosystem with the ecosystem here in Chennai, Bangalore, Coimbatore, that manufacturing belt, because that'll be like billions and billions of dollars of business that we can curate. So really keen to create a platform and handhold some of these businesses, build some great stories like the Carlington and 3Vima as well, and then really amplify the outcome. That's our objective at AIBC. But also I wear another hat, personally run an investment fund as well. We want to support commercially where we're able to accelerate with the investments as well. So, and that's something which I tell the Australians, although I've been in Australia as an Australian for 22 plus years, that this new India is an India which is ready to put skin in the game, invest into Australia, scale that, have skin in the game with the Australian technology, not only adopting, but scale it to India for global markets. And that's my positioning. This India is really ready to partner with Australia, scale these technologies for not only India's growth story, but also for the global needs. And energy, clean energy, green economy is a huge sector, from critical minerals, mining tech to the batteries. The best solar cell, the first solar cell was invented in UNSW, which went to China. That's a different story. But the latest, the best, highest efficiency solar cell is out of UNSW again. This time, obviously, this is going to be retained in Australia, but they will be interested to partner with India. And those are the things that we want to support and scale for global market demands. So I'll pause it there for now, but definitely very passionate to really support businesses to scale.
Thank you, Irfan. Yesterday at one of the morning sessions, India's chief economic advisor really called on business to invest in research and development. And we've seen research and development really drive the trade and investment relationship. I wanted to ask Sriram, you already mentioned the relationship you have with IIT Madras, but what role does research and development play in growing your business?
It plays a very important role because we all know that one of the biggest buzzwords going around is sustainability. 3 months back, I was approached by a very large airline they asked me whether I can make my product sustainable. Now, obviously we use a lot of chemicals. We use at least 10 to 12 different products which go into a final, ingredients which go into a final product. So they asked us whether we could make a product which is sustainable. So over the last 4 months, I have been interacting with the Department of Chemistry at IIT Madras, and also with a couple of professors inside the research park, wherein we are working on a 100% plant-based product, wherein there will be no chemical. It will be all the products, whether the additives or the core fundamental of the product will be a plant-based product, which is sustainable, obviously. So therefore, you don't dig anything from the earth. You don't do anything. It's available in abundance, and we use that as the starting point for making the products which we are looking now for in the coming years. That's going to be our motto going forward, is to offer more and more sustainable solutions. Because end of the day, we need to give back to the environment what we take every day from them. So that's the whole objective. And in addition to that, we've also worked very closely with a couple of airlines, in fact, also, who have asked us for certain innovations. And I think that's where we are headed. The next 10 years, obviously, there's a lot of work and a lot of innovation which will happen, and a lot of things which will happen in India, because just as an example, for the next 10 years, every week, Indigo will get 1 new aircraft. That's the scale of business which is there in front of us. And this was told by the CEO of Indigo, Mr. Peter Elbers, in one of the forums last month. He says every week for the next 10 years, 1 new aircraft. So obviously, there is a lot of work which needs to be done by companies like us, wherein we talk about new innovations and help them be more productive, turn around, and it's a win-win situation for everybody ultimately.
Absolutely. And the company Shriram works for is a family business in Australia. So can you imagine the lost opportunity had they not come to India to grow it at scale? That, I think there's a vision required there. There's also sometimes people come to the Indian market and want quick wins. How long did you work for before you got your first sale? 18
months.
That's a lot of, I really credit...
I would visit Indigo's Gurgaon office every month, 2017, 18. I think somewhere in the middle of 18 is when I actually got my first order.
And kudos to the Australian investor who had that patience to sit through that. And, they're reaping the rewards now, but, 18 months without a sale. So I want to open to the floor. I know you all have amazing anecdotes and stories, and I think your company in particular is just going to change the scale of housing into the future. But I do want to open it up to the audience, because I want to give you an opportunity to ask them any questions you have. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. There's some microphones coming.
This question to the panel. So first of all, I would like to agree that Australia has a huge talent pool on a lot of front, especially on the AI. I also seen first-hand experienced a lot of AI development what happened in Australia. Is there a scope for us to implement in India? Because it is exactly where we definitely desperately need the AI to be coming away from outside, because nothing is coming inside. So at least definitely we want something coming from outside to here to shape up a lot of changes what we needed. Is there a roadmap, and is there any interest participant to come to India for implementing this project, AI projects?
I'll start by saying that it's already happening. So Annalise AI is a company based in Chennai that's an Australian company in the medical sector. So it is already happening, but I'll throw this one to Irfan because he's got the perspective of the Business Council.
Thank you. I think that's identified as a core sector for partnership where India is critical for AI. I mean, the good thing AI I relate to is Australia, India as well. So AI has got both Australia, India written there. And also great to see that India has got such a role at the French major summit happening with the Prime Minister also there. So it's recognized that even in Australia, across all sectors, AI is going to drive major significant change. And we don't have the resources in Australia to sustain that. And it has to be partnering with India. India's got the scale. Obviously, as you know, AI and generative AI, it evolves with more data. So it's an implied expectation that we have to work with India as a partnering nation. Across different industry sectors, we are setting up working groups and advisory groups as well to see how we can drive adoption. It's implied that we got to start with AI being there everywhere, but how do we drive adoption in partnership with the right partners in India is something we are looking at all the sectors. So obviously, whether it's healthcare, which Silai mentioned, Analyst AI is transforming the whole adoption and analysis of data in that healthcare medtech space. Similarly, across all the sectors, even in the construction space, they will have AI-driven solutions. But to your point, yes, India will be a partner. It's again finding the right match, on how we can drive the adoption and then grow from there. So I would definitely call out for AI-based companies to really look at your target sectors, industry sectors, where you see your solution is going to be aligned, and then work with key partners. As AIBC, we are happy to match as well. We have our own needs, which obviously we traditionally partnered with NASSCOM as one of our partners to find the right partnering companies here. But we'll be happy to be facilitated and see where some of your solutions can be aligned with the needs there. There is also a drive from the government as well, various state and federal government, to really support this need, and with India as a partner. So there will be a lot of initiatives and roadshows that we plan very specific to that AI adoption. So we'll be happy to take that forward as a business council. But it's the right time, right opportunity. It's about right partnership to be established to accelerate. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Just to give a product, IoT is the key one we are looking for.
Yeah, so the whole AI in digital twins to smart sensors all around and collect data based on that is the key, yeah, definitely. Across all industrial, mining, all those sectors are prime, and healthcare as well.
So good evening, sir. I am Selva Sundarajan, coming from Aditya Training University, Madurai, Tamil Nadu. I am already having 2 customers from Australia. I am a service exporter. Is there any other chamber of commerce or point of contacts for developing my business in Australia? Can I get the details from?
We'll be happy to support, but what's the segment, sector?
Service exporter, sir. For
What
example,
services?
they are
What services?
They are doing the food business in Australia. Okay. So they are contacting me for developing their business in India. And another one, they are also requiring to purchase the products from India. We are supporting them to purchase the products, and we are also supporting them to develop their products in India and other countries also, sir.
In the food sector?
Food sector, agriculture main area.
Okay.
Agriculture and education, training and consulting, education area also, sir.
So food and agri and hospitality sector is a huge one. Obviously, one of the key things I would suggest is conformance to standards. So that's where we have seen challenges for Indian products and service companies to enter Australia, is about conformance to the standard. Australia has got pretty high standards in terms of what compliance is required. In fact, last year, and I couldn't believe that
As high as Qatar Airways?
Well, yeah, I'm hoping, Qantas gets on board quickly. Maybe that's the reason. But I will just come to a point. Last year, I was desperate to source a series of, sweets and snacks for Coles and Costco because Diwali has become big mainstream now. And they wanted to have a big aisle like the one you see in Lulu and other malls. They want to really set it up. And I couldn't get even the Haldirams or some of the leading players to conform to that quality standard. So I definitely took on me next year. So this time it's prime. I'm looking for the right partners to...
You need to go to A to B. They're already an investor.
Yeah, there you go. But again, looking at the right conformance is a key. But happy to support AIBC's to support, facilitate these connections?
Okay, sir.
I think one of the things is Australia does have a lot of requirements and regulations. However, this is where we see a lot of opportunity in southern India in particular, because there's a lot of skill-based talent here. So, you know, Larsen Torbro was presenting today. They have a huge contract with a mining company in Australia to build the parts for their mine in Western Australia. And they showed me the book, the compliance book. It's this thick of what every bit needs to be manufactured, but they're doing it. And that's because there's a huge talent pool here. To get that machinery made in Australia would take way too long, and in Western Australia we just wouldn't have the workforce. So when we talk about economic complementarity, that's what we mean. That, you know, Australia has needs that India can cover, India has needs that Australia can provide opportunities for. Do we have time to continue? Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for your question. I'll let the gentleman behind you.
Hi, hello everyone. Myself Anthony. So I'm majorly into the trainings segment. So my question is majorly on the cross-cultural learning. Can it happen for the entrepreneurs community, which is growing in India nowadays? I think not only in India, but a lot of countries are promoting entrepreneurship, right? So can there be a cross-cultural learning between Australia and India where the entrepreneurs can learn and get some workshops, effective workshops from the practices which are being followed or from the lessons which have been taken? So it will be a great amount of learning for the entrepreneurs. So that's my first question. And next one is especially on the trade. So when it comes to the trading, so nowadays there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are blooming and who are coming up, who want to do trade activities, right? So should there be effective forums where the new entrepreneurs can also get into trading and they can do trade between the countries?
So I'll start by saying we have a big Austrade network, which is our trade and investment agency present in India. You should look into them online, but they do a lot of trade shows throughout India, in Australia, building those links. They will ask for specific requirements. So it's not, you know, there are delegations that can go with the business councils, and Austrade takes people to Australia, but they will be looking for people who are ready to expand, not someone on an exploratory kind of thing. There are multiple trade shows that happen in Australia, and I think every industry, similarly to India, forums like this, every industry can find those opportunities. But we also have an India-Australia Chamber of Commerce. It's based in Chennai. The secretariat is in Chennai, though it's pan-India. And they actually provide a lot of advice to Indian companies wanting to expand in Australia. AIBC also does this. So please speak to Irfan after today's session, but also the IACC, if you look it up online, they have professionals that can provide you with advice on how to expand your business and what states or markets to look into.
If I may add, we're doing this with various states. Last year we did with Karnataka. This year we're looking at Tamil Nadu and also Telangana to curate a cohort. Again, you have to be there to experience this culture. And even if it is to spark off a 1 or 2 weeks, 10 days cohort we've got, where it's about cultural immersion as well, but also giving exposure and access to some of the networks as well. Similarly, we are bringing a delegation later in April, obviously for Startup Mahakumbh, which is the largest entrepreneurial kind of summit happening in Delhi. But part of that, we will be bringing them to a few other states as well, where these entrepreneurs will connect. We are also launching one of the largest investor platform ecosystem as well. So all is part of that immersion that we are looking at. There will be master classes, there will be networking sessions, but also understand the way the startup culture works in Australia. You have to be there. In fact, the success of the Karnataka delegation was we had about 4 companies who had launched part of that trip. And they got to experience not only the main cities, but also regional cities like Newcastle, Wollongong and all, where they saw entire new opportunities that they could offer. There was a company out of Coimbatore, Bangalore, where they do manufacturing as a service, design as a service. And they got, it took about 4 or 5 months to get the first order, but they really opened great opportunities for them as well. But it was all about plugging into the ecosystem, making the right connection, and then nurturing those as well. We also have had programs. We had a women entrepreneurship scale-up program where we have experts in entrepreneurs in residence and experts in residence who will help handhold, mentor some of these startups and entrepreneurs as well. Because I believe apart from great product, great investment, having the right connections, the right time with the mentors is very critical for the growth story of a startup and an entrepreneur. And that's what we will be happy to help and facilitate.
So unfortunately, we do need to draw our session to a close today. For us, the main message I want you to take away is that there are many opportunities in the Australia-India trade and investment corridor. And I think it's a simple matter of raising the awareness. We do it for Australian businesses. Let them know that there is a whole huge India outside of Delhi and Mumbai. And in reverse, we have trade commissioners representing most states from Australia in India. So, I would start off with the Austrade website and the internet, but business councils are another great avenue to look at. I think everyone will be sticking around for a few minutes, so if you want to come and speak to someone, we'd be willing to chat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. May I request Mr. Tareen to facilitate?
This is the just in time.
This is amazing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take a joint photo.
Yeah, we'll come on.